I'm Owen Bigland. This is the Inside Edge video blog. Now that we're into summer 2018, let's do a little recap or talk about the current status of the downtown Vancouver condo market and where we're at right now with prices and what I see kind of coming down the road over the next 5, 10, 15 years. Now, the reason I want to discuss this is I was reading and watching a video on YouTube about an interesting real estate forum that was held in Toronto a couple weeks ago. They brought together a bunch of developers, some realtors, some bankers, mortgage experts, some economists, to talk about the state of Toronto, downtown Toronto real estate, especially the condo market in downtown Toronto. And you can transplant this to downtown Vancouver as well. But the interesting thing, the panelists from a wide variety of areas, as I just said, pretty much all unanimously agreed that this will probably be the last generation in Toronto, and you could say that same thing about Vancouver, that will be able to buy and live in a downtown Toronto or Vancouver condo. They had all said pretty much unanimously the way prices are going, the lack of buildable land, in the next 15 to 20 years, anyone who's going to be buying a condo is going to be wealthy. They will be for the rich only, and pretty much anyone else that wants to live in downtown Toronto or Vancouver from that point on will probably be a renter. So you're either going to be wealthy, they didn't really stipulate what that means, maybe a $2 or $3 million net worth in order to afford to buy a condo, or you're going to be a renter. And I would totally agree with them. I've blogged about this many times. I know I'm going to get some thumbs down here on my YouTube channel, but don't shoot the messenger. I'm just a marketer. I sell real estate. I don't set the prices. But the writing has been on the wall for many, many years here, and I've blogged about it for the last 7 years, how Vancouver is changing. It is growing at an incredible pace, and that is not going to stop. Yes, we might have dips in the road over the next 20 years, but Vancouver, 20 years from now, you are not going to recognize the skyline or the downtown core in 20 years. Just like 20 years prior to this, you wouldn't recognize Vancouver for what it is now, with the amount of towers, restaurants, entertainment, office buildings that have gone up in the past 20 years. That is not going to change. We live in one of the most desirable cities in the world to live in, and that's not my opinion, that's the world's opinion. And anyone that has the money and the means to be able to come and move and live in a city like Vancouver over the next 20 years is going to do that. And the writing is on the wall. I've talked about it many times before. All you have to do is walk around downtown Vancouver. I live and work in the downtown core. I'm walking around all the time. I walk more and more every year. Walk on the way to go to the gym to work out. I walk to go get something to eat, to get lunch. Walk to go meet with clients. The odd time I'm getting in my car, but I'm walking more and more. And when I walk, every single week I'm seeing new things coming up in the downtown core. Either another tower is going up, or a rezoning permit is going up, or a new restaurant, or a new bar. When I first moved here in the summer of '84 from Toronto, I remember we came from Toronto, which was a big city. Coming to Vancouver at that time, I thought, geez, this is a pretty small little town, Vancouver. And how much Vancouver has grown over the last 30 years is really remarkable. But I've talked about it before. The writing's on the wall here. All you have to do is look at the new developments that are either in going through the zoning process or the development process, or are currently under construction or getting ready to pre-sell. Go onto a website called BuzzBuzz Homes, and that's a great website. It has an interactive map there of all the residential towers going up in Vancouver, and as well as a lot of the ones that are proposed that are coming up in the near future. They all have one thing in common. They are all luxury condos, starting at anywhere from $1,400 or $1,500 a square foot up to well over $2,000 a square foot. So, you know, the cavalry is not on the way to help bail people out with affordable housing in downtown. That horse left the stable a long time ago. When these developers are paying $60, $70 million for a small parcel of land, they're not going to bother building mid-priced units. It's all going to be luxury finished units because that's the only way they're going to make a profit, based on having to pay $70 or $80 million for a lot. You know, look at the number of gas stations. They're all slowly disappearing. We're down to our last few, which are currently up for sale. The city is changing. Toronto is the same way. So it's not too late. I've blogged about it many times before, how I'm still selling condos to young millennials all the time. But in the next 20 years, the window is closing for people. And I know some people aren't going to like what I have to say. They were born and raised in Vancouver and they feel the city is being sold from under them. But I have to tell you that I travel a fair bit. As people blogged about before, I go down to Southern California 2 or 3 times a year, New York, Miami, London. You know, what's going on in Vancouver is not exclusive to Vancouver. It's basically from here all the way down to San Diego, Miami, New York, Washington, Boston, and then you can go to Europe and there's a dozen cities the same way. The desirable cities, people have discovered them. Money can flow wherever it wants to. You know, you ask someone back in Toronto who's getting ready to retire. I've blogged about this because I've had, every year, I get several clients that come from Quebec, from Montreal or Toronto that retire, sell the house there, and come down here, out here and buy a condo in Yaletown and live the West Coast lifestyle. If they've got the means, the money, this is at the top of their list. And that is not going to change. Just walk around downtown Vancouver. I'll hear people sometimes say that Vancouver isn't the city that it used to be, and it's hollowing out, and the young people are leaving the city, and it can't continue this way. And I'm sorry, but I totally disagree. Vancouver is 10 times the city it was 30 years ago. It's not even close. Every single year, this city gets better for amenities, restaurants, housing. But again, though, it depends on what side of the equation you're on. If you're struggling, for sure, I can see it's tough and you're losing ground. But of course, there's a lot more people, though, that are making it work. They're coming from other parts of the country, retiring out here. They've got the money, the means to buy. And of course, this is paradise for them. But it's the way a lot of US and world cities are going. It's just the way it is. It's survival of the strongest right now. But again, I've blogged so many times that not all is lost. But my suggestion for young people watching my blog here is, you know, keep in mind this window is closing, just like they were talking about in Toronto. And in 20 more years, it's probably going to be near impossible even to buy a basic 1-bedroom condo. I always use that rule of thumb, as you guys know, a condo doubles every 15, 17 years, and that's pretty conservative. I mean, if you would have bought a Yaletown condo 7 years ago, it would have doubled, but that's not normal. Those kind of gains, don't expect those. But every 15 to 17 years. So, I mean, you're looking at $700,000 now for a decent 600 square foot condo in Yaletown. $750 or $800 isn't uncommon. So you can expect that condo in 20 or 25 years to be selling for around $2 million. Now, incomes will grow somewhat, but they won't keep pace to what the 20 or 30-year growth capital gain rate is on downtown Vancouver condos. It's not going to happen. But just on one more note, some people ask me about jobs in the city, young people finding it hard. I did a few blogs 6 months ago about how Amazon was going to be opening a 500 job office at a new tower they're putting in at Dunsmuir and Richards. Well, that got revised last month, and now they're moving into a much larger office above where the post office is, the old post office, and now hiring 2,000 new jobs. Now, these are high-paying jobs. Some people were saying, oh, they're $50,000 jobs. There might be some of those that are at that rate, but many of these jobs are into 6 figures. The city is changing. A lot of people don't realize, and I've done blogs on how Vancouver is turning into a bit of a tech hub. Amazon with 2,000 jobs. SAP is a huge employer here. Microsoft, Disney has several small studios here because I've got these people as clients, so I'm seeing them all the time. These are good paying jobs. These people are clients of mine that are working for these companies, and they are buying $600,000 and $700,000 condos. And some of them are actually now going around and starting to buy a second unit from me as an investment. So these are good jobs, but you have to understand how these tech companies work. They are putting these offices in cities like Vancouver because that's part of the lure to get good tech workers in. It's a very competitive business. And part of the incentive is we'll locate in cities like in Southern California, in downtown Portland, downtown Toronto, Chicago, Toronto, Vancouver. It's part of the appeal. We'll give you the $70,000 or $80,000 to start, but hey, you get to live in a city like Vancouver. And that's what attracts these young tech workers. They don't want to be in an office out in Boise, Idaho somewhere. That's not interested, they're not interested in that at all. They want to live downtown, either rent or buy a condo downtown. They probably don't need a car, these guys, anymore. They ride their bike or walk to work and then go out for drinks and food or go to a concert. It's all within walking distance of the downtown core, and that's what Vancouver offers, and that is only going to get better. So to summarize, you know, again, and I've blogged about this so many times, you know, buy your principal residence sooner rather than later. And I'm not advocating that people just go out and buy anything. Get a realtor, do your due diligence. Don't go out and pay $1,500 for a pre-sale that's hugging up against a bridge, because there are some dogs that are selling out there that I've talked about before. Buy your principal residence, live in it, enjoy it. We will get corrections from time to time, and we are overdue for a correction here. I've talked about it so many times. I think I'm one of the few people that talk about a balanced approach to real estate. We could get a 15% correction or a 20% correction over the next few years. I don't know. If you want to be a market timer and wait for it, go ahead. But as I said, you better have your ducks in a row. And it's a tough game to play, trying to time markets. Buy it, live in it, enjoy it. Any market correction we have, I should say too, is probably going to be a result of interest rate hikes. So sure, you might save $40,000 on the purchase price, but you're probably going to cost you an extra $40,000 in your financing over the next 20 years. But buy it, live in it, enjoy it. Because the window, I know a lot of people don't want to hear this, but the window to get a piece of the downtown Vancouver core is slowly closing on people. And 20 years from now, when you tell someone I paid $650,000 for that one-bedroom Yaletown condo, they're going to think, what a bargain. Why didn't you buy 6 of them? But of course, in today's market, $650 for a one-bedroom seems crazy. Buy your principal residence. The window is closing on it, and you're not going to recognize Vancouver in another 15 or 20 years. As a matter of fact, you're not going to go on to Buzz Home. You're not even going to recognize the Vancouver skyline in 10 years. The amount of new condo towers, office towers, and development that's currently going in to the downtown core. I'm Owen Bigland. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.